And time now for Homeschooled as we welcome in Mark Malusis and Sal Licata. And big night for Kemba, y'all. Almost dropped a special 50-piece, 94 points in his last 3 games. Moose, do you think this is proof that Thibs benching him and taking him out of the rotation was a mistake?
No, I don't, because I think Kemba Walker, I mean, he was still only +4 when you look at it, despite the fact he dropped in 44 points. I mean, he's just not a good defensive player. I mean, listen, he scored, and it was a great night at Madison Square Garden individually for Kemba Walker. The fact is, you know, their opponent shot 56% from the floor. They shot 43% from 3. They're not a good defensive team. Yeah, Kemba Walker has shined the last 3 games, but how is that knee going to be able to hold up? I mean, that's been the issue. Was the issue up in Boston? Was the issue toward the end down there in Charlotte? Issue early on here, exactly the availability of Kemba Walker, and is he really going to be able to buy in and not be a net negative defensively? So, listen, right now it's all hands on deck with what every professional sports team is dealing with, no less than Knicks. So, Kemba Walker, good for him. Veteran, not all that surprising he had that kind of an offensive effort, but I don't think it's all of a sudden a knock that's saying, well, Tom Thibodeau should never have sent him to the bench. He sent him to the bench because when Kemba Walker was on the court, the Knicks were the second worst defensive team in the NBA.
Right. So, Moose, we talked about this earlier on in the year, and they still have not addressed it. Now, forget about right now, specifically with half the team out due to COVID, but what is their identity? I feel like the front office is going one direction, saying, okay, well, we need to be more offensive, bringing in Fournier and Kemba Walker, and the head coach is going another, saying, these guys can't play the team defense that I need them to play. And the Knicks have been getting blown out on the regular this year. Obviously, this was not one of those games at the Garden against the Wizards, but still, they've been getting blown out. They haven't been as competitive. They certainly haven't been anywhere near where they were defensively a year ago. So you look at Kemba and he lights it up, and you do scratch your head and say, well, why is Thibs jettisoning him from the starting lineup to the end of the bench? But then you realize, well, Kemba Walker doesn't play any defense. Thibs loves defense, but the Knicks don't play defense. So what is their identity? What are they trying to accomplish? What are they doing this year? I feel like they're all over the place. That, to me, is the biggest issue. So I'm not going to knock Thibs for benching Kemba Walker, and I'm not surprised that he has a couple of good scoring games. Long-term, big picture, what's best for the team, I don't believe it is Kemba Walker.
Yeah, they're still figuring things out clearly, and that is not a good sign for the New York Knicks. But let's look ahead now, guys. Starting Saturday, the Knicks' next 14 games are against teams either at or under 500 heading into Thursday night's action. Here's a look at the next 7 presented by Geico. Sal, is it safe to say this stretch will determine if the Knicks are indeed a playoff contender in your opinion?
Yeah, now I don't think that they are a playoff team, but if you don't start winning some games here, and I mean, they're going to have to get fat in this stretch over the course of the next 14. Not just one of these tread water and maybe a couple of games over. No, they're going to have to do really well, and I'm not seeing it, especially with the, now look, you throw the opponents in there. We know the Hawks on Saturday at the Garden for Christmas Day. That's a big game. The Hawks have been hit hard by COVID stuff, too, so you never know. The schedule now looks, all right, well, maybe there'd be some difficult games. All right, I know the teams are under 500, but it could be completely different with guys out. But the Knicks themselves are dealing with that. Bottom line is, if they cannot gain some ground over this stretch, then yes, they will be officially a dead team in this particular season.
Yeah, which would be a massive disappointment. So, yeah, I mean, it's really go time. So they're not really a great offensive team. They're not a great defensive team. We've talked about the identity of this group, but you look at this next 14 games and, Christmas Day, Atlanta in town, to take on the Knicks, and you say, well, I mean, next 14, the Knicks have got to find a way, because we came into this year talking about this team saying, well, they got to build on the success of a year ago with the additions offensively. They've got to be a playoff team this year over the course of an 82-game regular season. They don't look like a playoff team right now. So they can change all that over the stretch of the next 14, but it's go time. It's a favorable schedule, and they've got to take advantage of it.